going to be looking at Energy Outlook 2023 from the perspective of the practicality of where we are in Africa and what we really ought to be doing. Because I'm really concerned about the fact that we don't have power, a lot of migration of shutting down of industries, manufacturing is comatose, we're importing so much, and we're exporting mineral and natural resources out for finished products. So, I mean, there's so many issues around this. So I'm just going to go into the presentation now to see how can we increase power supply, have power sufficiency, and be able to jumpstart our industrialization journey and rejig our manufacturing sector. I won't bore you with the outline, but I'll tell you that I think on an annual basis, we really need to go looking for data and look at the various information available in the area of sources of energy and the related outlooks. So the outlook for 2023, I must say, the standard one people work with would probably be the British Petroleum Energy Outlook. That has been going on for several decades. The International Energy Agency World Energy Outlook is another document. Economist Intelligence Unit is yet another. The World Economic Forum Energy Outlook 2023. The US Energy Information Administration EIA Short-Term Energy Outlook is another one. S&P Global Market Intelligence 2023 Outlook is another one. ING 2023 Energy Outlook. And from the environmental part of things, because when you start looking at sustainability, the environment has been very badly impacted by fossil fuels, extraction of mineral resources, even for the renewable energy. So the United Nations Environmental Programme normally has a report. So on the 7th Global Environmental Outlook is quite interesting in terms of what's going on in the geopolitics of energy sufficiency and security. And then the International Petroleum Industry Environment Conservation Association, IPCA, also has a sustainability reporting guidance. But I was so pleased to find the Africa Energy Chamber, AEC Energy Outlook 2023 reports. And I think each and every one of us should download that report. I want to say a big thank you and congratulations to NGIU, who is really driving the African story. Because in most of these reports, you're basically looking at what investors in the Western world are thinking about supposedly poor Africa, whereas Africa is a custodian of huge deposits of mineral and natural resources, without which energy security anywhere in the world is impossible. So we really, really need to look at how we can work more closely with the Africa Energy Chamber so that there's an African voice, even though people think Africa is a country, but the African continental voice is so important. And then from the strategic perspective, we can now look at each country's outlook and then begin to drive a strategy that is owned by the African nations and driven through the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreements, as well as the African Union. So the Energy Chamber is a knowledge bank for the AU, but I don't really think they listen to them very much. So we need to go into advocacy to make sure that when all the presidents gather and have an AU conference or AU seminar or workshop or whatever they're having, they should begin to look out for technocrats as well as knowledge banks, whereby information is shared and they can make strategic decisions that will benefit the billions of Africans who are energy poor at the moment. So the report was released in October 2022. It looked at what global investors and energy companies need to be able to invest in Africa. Everything was all about investing in Africa, current emerging and future oil and gas market trends, geopolitical procedures shaping both the global and African oil and gas sector, a detailed analysis of how production and monetization will look like in 2023 for both African producing countries such as Libya, Angola, Nigeria, and global energy companies, where then it investigates what it means for African producers and global markets. And what I realized is that we need to separate the international oil companies from the independents and then the marginal field owners. Most of the emerging hydrocarbon provinces in Africa are learning from the Nigerian mistake and beginning to look at different business models of how they can optimize their mineral and natural resources. It also looks at the role of African energy in ensuring global energy security. I mean, a few years back, for the past 5, 10 years, everybody has been talking about energy transition. We mustn't fund the hydrocarbon, petroleum products are unclean, blah, blah, blah. But now when the Russian-Ukraine war crisis came up, everybody now thinks, okay, hydrocarbon is not such a bad idea. Gas is now a lovely transition fuel. Why don't we go to Africa and begin to look at the trans-Saharan pipelines and begin to look at how we're going to move gas from the Niger Delta through Morocco into Europe as an alternative? So I have to be honest with you, if we don't have a strategy, we will continuously be pawns on the chessboard in Africa, and we will definitely continue to sway and swing the way the investors think. So we need to begin to look at investments. I was so happy when Professor Felix was talking about the African funding mechanism, because if you don't have a funding mechanism and a funding strategy, you can't really make those decisions. And then we're also going to be looking at the energy challenges and opportunities faced across the continent. Every country is different, and the energy mix for every country is different. So even though we're going to have a holistic African strategy and holistic African energy mix agenda in terms of maybe gas being a transition fuel and supplementing off-grid with renewables, each country would know where their mineral and natural resources exist and what type of energy mix is appropriate for them. And then the impact on global trade and supply, as well as on exploration, production, infrastructure development, infrastructure. If we don't have the right infrastructure, we cannot optimize our petroleum assets. I mean, it's very sad that a country like Nigeria for over 60 years has been exporting crude oil and importing products. I mean, come on. I mean, we need to have the refineries, the petrochemical plants, the gas to liquid plants. We need to have hubs where we're processing hydrocarbon assets and selling the finished products as opposed to selling the raw materials and buying finished products back. So without the infrastructure and the upfront investment in gas utilization facilities, refineries, petrochemical plants, energy, gas turbine fired power plants, we're not going anywhere. And this is so key. So we need to begin to look at where can we locate our hubs strategically, and how can African countries collaborate to share energy resources and mineral resources. Important considerations as global oil markets are suffering combined impacts from COVID-19. And the Russian-Ukraine war has actually made them think differently and begin to look at Africa. So this is an opportunity for Africa to rejig their plans and their strategies. Nigeria is expected to increase production from 1.65 million barrels in 2022 to about 1.75 million barrels in 2023. I think this is very sad. Since 2011, our reserves was at 40 billion barrels. We're supposed to have about 60 now. Our production was about 2 million barrels then. We're supposed to be about 4 million now. So, I mean, this is evidence of regression. So moving from 1.65 to 1.75 is a sad case. Libya is moving from 1.12 to about 1.3, and Angola is even receding from 1.13 to 1.1. And we're beginning to see accelerated gas projects in Africa. The appetite for African gas has become so huge, and then people are now, I mean, rather than saying ESG compliance, green funding, blah, 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 we're now beginning to see funds chasing projects. I mean, next week is the Energy Institute IE week. I've already been contacted by some people who are seeking to talk to Africans who have marginal field assets or assets and would like to have access to those resources, which was not the case last year or the year before the Ukraine war. So this is an opportunity for African jurisdictions where they have hydrocarbon assets. Equatorial New Guinea, they're emerging frontiers. Algeria, Egypt is doing very well on LNG, as well as Nigeria. We're going into LNG 27, likely 8, 9, 10. Equatorial Guinea, Senegal, Mauritania, Mozambique are emerging gas frontiers. The investment deficit for development, exploitation, and monetization of hydrocarbon resources is being looked at, and drilling is beginning to become a very, very the rigs are beginning to migrate back into the African terrain. We're looking at from 895 wells to about in 2022 to about 915 wells as a minimum in 2023, and 1,000 wells in about 2025. Total Energies is really, really, really investing heavily in Africa, or simply moving investments from one country to another. So Nigeria has to begin to look at how its divestments in Nigeria should be a major concern. Total Energy and Shell are investing heavily in Namibia, and opening up of an appetite for investment in other East and Central African countries. Shell struck a deal to explore Mauritania's C2 block. Cosmos Energy is investing in Ghana, Equatorial Guinea. Senegal is working on becoming Africa's petrochemical hub with 12 blocks up for licensing. Mauritania, BP, and Cosmos are involved in joint developments. British Petroleum is focusing on assets in Senegal, Mauritania, Egypt, and Angola. So gas is very, very, the countries are really looking at Africa's gas. So we need to begin to look at the non-associated gas opportunities as opposed to just optimizing associated gas. CNOOC and Total Energies co-own Uganda's existing oil fields alongside the state-run Uganda National Oil Company. So a lot of companies are strategizing and partnering to enter nations and bringing their technology and their know-how and their funding to tie down the hydrocarbon assets of these African countries. Petronor in Congo is working very hard with the government. Total Energies and Sasol is investing in Mozambique gas project, and Petrobras, ENI, and Tolo prospecting in Ivory Coast and have activities in Ghana. So the top 10 companies that are really investing in Africa right now are Shell, Total Energies, Basra Oil Company, ConocoPhillips. And those are, let's say, those are the top 4 that we really know. And Tullow and CNNOC are moving in, but we can also see that there's a lot of funding from EIG Partners, EQT Corporation, Petramina, Omega Acquisition, Marathon Oil, Permina Resources. These companies are actually hunting for assets. They're trying to invest because there's an energy deficit that is being looked at for the next 5 years, for the next 5 to 10 years. So there's quite a lot of money coming in and looking for opportunities. And then in terms of Africa's power generation, we are 244.5 gigawatts at the moment. We're very, very low in terms of nuclear energy. We're 0.8%, bioenergy 0.7%, and that's an area where because of the amount of agro-allied industries we have, the amount of population we have, bioenergy is an area where there's a huge gap. So that's a huge investment opportunity. So from 0.07%, we should be going to about 5%. So if you look at from 0.7% to 5%, there's about 4.3% deficit there, which is in trillions of dollars of investment. So bioenergy is an area where we need to look out for in Africa, and the technologies around that are not so expensive. Geothermal is not really, it's high tech, and I mean, it's more futuristic for Africa. Gas is not 39.6%. Geothermal is 0.4%. Coal 19.4%. I think a country like Nigeria, Enugu, we may have to go and look at coal, and then hydrogen is tied to there's some technologies around that, cleaning coal and getting coal cleaner energies out of coal. Then hydro pumped storage 16.7%, diesel HFO oil 14.7%, solar is 4.7%. Solar should be about 10%. So I think all our off-grid activities could actually, so we need to do an energy mapping in different African countries to understand where off-grid solar solutions are economically viable, so that we can decentralize energy access and build hubs around renewable energy from waste to wealth opportunities, such that we jumpstart our industrialization journey and improve our manufacturing base and reduce our cost of importing finished products. And wind, wind is not really a strong point for Africa then. Maybe in the Mambila plateaus and Jos plateaus, depending on where the geography is very important in terms of wind. So I'm not going to dwell much on that. But I see huge opportunities here, especially in bioenergy, solar, as well as hydrogen, which is a future fuel. So now these are some very, very disturbing facts that I got, and I thought I should just put this here. But the World Bank Enterprise Survey reported 322 private firms closed down in Nigeria between 2009 and 2014. So aside from stifling business regulations, corruption, and the poor political environment, one of the major facts here was energy poverty. And then the Director of Economic and Statistics Departments of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria was also quoted as saying 196 manufacturing companies shut down their operations between 2015 and 2017 due to the biting recession, and that was impacted by energy poverty. So things like Berek batteries, Exide batteries, biscuit companies, rolling mills, sugar factories, paper mills, car manufacturing factories, companies that are involved in manufacturing shut down or migrated to Ghana. And then when you look at things like liberalization policies that opened up the borders, I mean, the Chinese have flooded our markets and the Asian companies with finished products. But you're also looking at the textile industry, which requires energy and can create a lot of jobs and wealth in the northern parts of Nigeria, has actually gone comatose. Even the Aba textile mill, Edo textile mill, Udua textile mills have all vanquished. So there's something about energy security and energy wealth that will trigger industrialization and stimulate manufacturing, create jobs and wealth in Nigeria. So there is a value chain that actually starts the economy. And this is something that we really need to look at. So the way forward, we need to optimize gas as a transition fuel. And if you look at our conversations on COP26 and COP27 and the 2016 net zero agenda and the decade of gas, we really, really need to have a strategy. And this is an area where I think we all need to put our thinking caps on and decide on the way forward. We need to stimulate industry academia collaboration on oil, gas to petrochemical and hydrogen as a cleaner fuel. I mean, why are our universities not running R&D opportunities where we're doing waste to wealth, waste to fuel, waste to energy, and all the waste is being converted into energy, and we have uninterrupted power supply. This can also be done for our medical institutions, the hospitals, and maybe the banks. So we can decide, okay, these are the areas where we're going to take this education, banking, and the hospitals, medical off the grid. So I mean, they're intelligent business models and economic models that we can begin to look at. We need to leapfrog into waste to wealth, waste to energy, and waste to fuels. And the 3 R's of reduce, reuse, and recycle is something that could actually address some energy gaps. Then advanced emission control and carbon capture technologies is something that we really need to look at. And the legislative framework to ensure that the energy mix leverages our natural, mineral, and human resources in Africa is so important. So apart from the global African strategy, every country needs to have a think tank and decides that this is what we will be doing for the next 5 to 10 years. And it's not like every year you say, okay, this is where we're going, this is where we're going. It has to be a long-term strategy broken down into medium and short-term goals. And then we need to promote smart subject matter experts and small, medium enterprises to create entrepreneurship opportunities. And we need to optimize technologies across the energy value chain. So, I mean, from plastics, I mean, you can see how much plastics are all over, waste plastic all over. You can actually generate energy from plastics, from waste textile, paper, organic waste, metals and glass. Metals and glass is zero, but there's opportunity from the plastic is the highest waste to wealth provider. And we need to look at that. So I'm just going to go to the rush through because I'm seeing that the time's running out. One interesting fact I found in terms of sustainability, innovation and value chain optimization and value chain creation is that just yesterday or day before yesterday, there's a news flash that the energy giant Saudi Aramco signs an agreement with Drop Group to build Web3 tech. I mean, not too long ago, a year or two ago, Saudi Aramco went public. And you can see that the strategy now is to divest from, I mean, have your hydrocarbon assets, but take the profits from your hydrocarbon assets and invest in digital, because data is the next oil and gas. So I am so pleased that a country like Saudi Aramco is strategically looking at investing in digital and converting their hydrocarbon wealth into digital and information technology wealth, which is a sustainable future wealth generation opportunity. So Saudi Aramco, a near 2 trillion state-owned energy company, has decided to explore co-developing blockchain-based technologies to benefit its workers. And that R&D solution in itself is going to be scaled. The intention is to scale so that they can compete with the likes of Microsoft, Facebook, Oracle, and the other companies. So you can see that NNPC that's claimed it's privatized really needs to go beyond speak and begin to look at strategic action that really says that we're privatizing because we have a strategy for scaling and giving a higher return on investment on the stakeholders and shareholders who happen to be the citizens of a nation like Nigeria. So these are technology is going to really revolutionize the whole energy value chain. So energy transition is going to involve gas utilization, hydrogen, renewables, transmission, distribution, storage, electric vehicles, aggregators, energy as a service, green infrastructure, blockchain digitalization. Then digital transformation is going to play a significant role in how energy is optimized. So we're going to have IT integration. People are going to be able to reduce, track, and manage their energy utilization from their smartphones. So, I mean, this is happening already in the Western nations where the cost of energy is so high. You can actually switch off all your energy devices or optimize your energy devices based on the time of the day and based on the cost of energy. So energy is not going to be a fixed cost 24 hours a day. Energy is going to be a higher cost during office hours when the manufacturing plants are ongoing and people are in the office, and a lower cost when people are sleeping. So these are the kind of areas where you can actually save costs in terms of the energy mix and energy solutions using digital transformation. So big data, data analytics, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, extended reality. These are parts of the dimensions of the energy optimization and value creation we need to be looking in the sustainability and innovation spectrum. Then green energy systems is so important. We're going to be looking at green energy solutions for logistics, procurement, engineering, conceptual, front-end engineering design, detailed engineering design, fabrication. So the entire from front-end engineering design to construction, hookup, commissioning, operations, maintenance is going to be driven by green energy systems, because you cannot compete with cheaper energy solutions. And in manufacturing, for example, how can a manufacturing company that is using energy that is very expensive compete with a manufacturing company in China that has an energy mix and an energy solution that is much cheaper? So we're going to have to be looking at regional and global competitiveness based on cost of energy, and the green energy systems need to be used intelligently. Sometimes green energy is the most expensive solution. You can't copy and paste what is going on in China in Nigeria, because maybe in a village in Nigeria where there's sunshine, solar energy may be the optimum main power supply, whereas when you're manufacturing, you probably need gas-fired generators, or if you're off-grid. So people are going to have to be intelligent about the energy mix they use on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a national annual basis. And then Industry 5.0 is going to play a very significant role in the way energy is deployed, because everything is going to work around systems integration, democratization of knowledge, automated networks, innovation, Internet of Things, wireless connectivity, big data, AI, cobotics, miniature sensors, control systems, instrumentation networks, data and system security. So I can tell you for sure that Saudi Aramco is way ahead. And Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, they're way ahead. They actually are enjoying, Abu Dhabi National Oil Company is currently enjoying an operational efficiency of 40%. So, I mean, we cannot continue to do things the old way and believe we are globally competitive. So Africa has to rise up to global competitiveness, and the Africa Continental Free Trade Zone is an opportunity for us to do that. And engagement with the African Energy Chamber at the African Union, and having these conversations with the presidents and prime ministers, what the leadership of Africa is so important, because I mean, we can't continue to be talking and playing politics when the world is moving in leaps and bounds ahead of us. So we need to wake up and shape up. So for a 200 million population country like Nigeria, waste to energy and waste to fuels is something that we really need to think about. I mean, there's so much. I mean, if you see the refuse dumps in Nigeria, there's so much methane gas that could be, extracted from that. And then from all the waste in the dump yards, I mean, there's so much fuel that can be generated. So when you look at the budget of a country like Nigeria and the budget deficit from importing products and for settling demurrage at the ports, I'm just wondering that with all the waste on the roads, I mean, I'm sure you drive around a country like Lagos, or a city like Lagos, or a country like Nigeria, and you see waste dumps all over the place, and you're wondering how come this country is energy poor when there's so much wealth around in the waste. So we really need to begin to innovate and think out of the box so that we're not just thinking of the big picture of energy security, energy transition, oil, gas, and the grids. We're beginning to look at how do we get the small, medium enterprise, the woman in the market, the person cooking in the village, how do we provide them with sustainable energy supply? So energy security and the African Union and African Continental Free Trade Zone, you can see from this map that we really need to look at Northern Africa separate from Western Africa, Eastern Africa, Central Africa, and Southern Africa. So apart from having the Africa global, the regional strategy, we need to break it down into the Northwest, East, Central, and Southern. And something interesting happened in the UK. Rishi Sunak just set up 4 new departments. But these 4 new departments are because His Royal Majesty King Charles realized that insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So I'm saying that in my mind, I'm thinking that Africa needs to rethink their strategy. We have mineral and natural resources that are critical to battery storage, panel and battery requirements for renewable energy. So why don't we have a Department of Energy or Ministry of Energy Security and Mineral Resources so that we're able to harmonize the mineral resources that are required for the solar panels, for battery, for storage, and for even the systems that are going to be integrated, information technology, hardware, software, and communications network. We need to connect energy security, energy transition, and digital transformation, and look at ourselves as a mineral and natural resource and human resource wealthy continent, and strategize on how we drive our industrialization plan and rejig our manufacturing industries to be most internally within Africa sufficient and be able to do great things. And that's why science, innovation, and technology is very critical. And we need to begin to look at our business and trade agreements. And then on the Africa Continental Free Trade Zone, the agreement agenda 2063, a strategy to harmonize energy supply. We need to prioritize the development of electricity markets under the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Affordable and reliable electricity drives all socioeconomic growth. We've been saying it, industrialization and manufacturing is tied to affordable and reliable power supply. We need to create a continental electricity market with existing power pools remaining as regional hubs. We need to leverage climate finance to supplement funding for regional electricity markets, optimize mineral and natural resources to access green funding. We need to assess the business case by establishing regional electricity market operators. Large power generation projects can provide affordable, clean, and reliable electricity in Africa. Through public-private partnerships, and electricity could be purchased from independent power producers, IPPs, or utilities with excess capacity and sold directly to utilities or end users in other countries. We need to optimize technology, energy security, digital transformation, and innovation is very key. We need to develop knowledge, skills, and good practice through human capital development initiatives, because if we don't have the right leadership, we don't have the right strategic thinkers, we don't have the right technocrats, the right business models, and the right agreements, we're going nowhere. The African Development Bank and AFREXIM need to lead funding consortia and drive energy security in Africa. Thank you so much for listening to me.